Bonjour tout le monde! Hello! Je m'appelle Chloé et aujourd'hui je vais vous apprendre le français. Hi, my name is Chloe. I'm the resident French amongst all your resident experience coordinators, and today I'm here to teach you French. So first things first, when learning a language, you need to decide why you're learning the language. Are you learning it for business? Are you learning to speak it when you go on holiday? Are you learning it in an academic way? All of those things matter. So today I'm going to teach you French for beginners, as for those who want to speak the language when they go to France, not in an academic way or in a business way at all. And in my opinion, when learning to speak a language, the most important thing to start with is the sounds of the language, because each language has different, very specific sounds to it. Those can be guttural, those can be rolled R's in Spanish, or yeah, all sorts of sounds, and French has its own. So we're going to start with just some very basics, and that's going to be the alphabet. If you listen carefully, you'll hear that some of the letters have the same almost the same pronunciation as in English, and you'll notice that other letters, don't. So let's begin. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. So you might have noticed some of the letters are really similar sounding, others really don't. We're going to break those down into two categories, vowels and consonants. We're not going to go over all the letters because that would be too long and a bit boring, so just the most important ones. In the vowels you have A, O, U, I, E and Y. So that's A, O, U, I, E and Y. In French we count Y as a vowel most of the time. So A, O, U, I are the main sounds that you have, and if you put two letters together, two vowels together, it will change the sound of those letters. For instance, A plus U will be O, and E plus N will be En, and O plus U will be OO. So that's O made with A and U, because we don't like to keep things simple with just using the letter O. No, we're going to use A and U to make the same sound, or OU to make the sound OO. OO is very important because you find it in a lot of words, such as merci beaucoup, or où est la bibliothèque, where is the library. Où means where as well. Amongst other sounds, with O you also have O plus N, which is that's a very difficult sound to make. You kind of make it with your nose. The sound is coming out of my nose. You know, and I'm making this weird shape with my mouth. So that's how you do it. You have O, OO, U, En. These are all French sounds. U, En, OO. So you can try and say them over and over until it sounds similar to what I'm saying. Don't forget, the E has accents. So if the accent is going from the bottom left to the top right, that's E, like in my name. My name is Chloe, so that's bottom left to top right. And when it goes from top left, to bottom right, like this, that's E, like un pré, that means in a field, un pré. So E. You can see my mouth as well is making weird shapes. That's where sounds come from in French. Just make sure that you do the mouth movement as well as the sound. Now in consonants we have a few. We have the letter G, which in English is pronounced G, and in French is pronounced G. And be careful not to mistake it with the letter J in French, which is the letter J in English. So G is J in French, and J is J in French. G will often be pronounced either with the sound J, like J, or with the sound G, like garage in English. So it will be pronounced J if it's in front of an I or an E, and it will be pronounced G if it's in front of an A, O, U, or anything else. Then you have H, which we don't pronounce in English. It doesn't exist. So you won't find words like heroin, where you pronounce the H. Or hello, we don't have that. We just don't pronounce the H. Unless it's with a C and an S, but that's just like in English with the words Charlotte or English. SH and CH make the same in French. The double L in French is pronounced like an I or a Y. So the word July in French is juillet, which is spelt J-U-I double L-E-T. So the double L is y, juillet. We have Q, which is pronounced Q like in English, but it's always followed by a U, and that U is silent. So no need to pronounce a U if you see it following a Q. Then we have the famous and the hardest of all, the letter R. Why is this one hard? Is because a lot of languages, mainly English, don't have a similar sound. And it's a very tough sound if you haven't been taught from the cradle. So I don't know how I'm going to teach you over the phone, but if you can see, the back of my tongue touches the back of my throat here, up there. So it's so bonjour, that sound. It's a really tough sound, so just practice by yourself. It doesn't matter if you sound a bit weird, just practice. So now that we've gone over the sounds of the language, go over them yourself again, and you can just practice them as much as you want. You can repeat after me and practice. Now we're gonna learn what you will need if you get off a train or a plane in Paris, or I don't know, wherever they speak French again, and that's greetings. So first you have the most common greeting, which is hello or bonjour in French. Bon means good and jour means day, so it's literally good day. Bonjour, bonjour. So remember those sounds that we learned? Ou, they're coming useful now. Bonjour, that's hello, bonjour. And there's another one that we like to say. If it's after 5 p.m. or 6 p.m, we say good evening, just like in English. And that's bonsoir, which means good evening, quite literally. Bonsoir. Soir is written S-O-I-R, but it's pronounced soir, soir. So that sound ou again and a. Soir, soir, bonsoir. Then we have a common greeting, which is comment ça va? Comment ça va means how are you? How are you doing? Comment ça va? And that applies to everyone. There are two alternatives to this greeting, and that's comment allez-vous, which means how are you if you're talking to either multiple people or a person that you don't know, an acquaintance, someone higher up than you in the food chain, stuff like that. We say vous. So comment allez-vous? Or if you're talking to a friend or a family member or someone you know very well, or a kid, you'll say comment vas-tu? So that's comment allez-vous for multiple people or higher ups, et comment vas-tu for your friends, family and kids. Usually the reply to this question is ça va, merci, or je vais bien, merci, which means I am going well. In French we like to say things a bit weird, so je vais bien means literally translates to I am going well. Je vais bien. Bien means good, vais means going, je means I. So je vais bien. You can also just reply with a simple ça va or ça va bien, which most people do. And now we have merci, which means thank you. Merci, thank you. And you can also say merci beaucoup, which means thank you very much or thanks a lot. Merci beaucoup. Again, remember those words, those sounds, o and ou, beaucoup. So once you get those sounds down, you'll see that your pronunciation is going to improve, and you will stop saying thank you nice ass, which a lot of people say in French when they're not French, because beaucoup and beaucoup are very similar sounding but mean very different things. And you also have oui et non, which are yes and no. So that's oui, yes, or non, no. Non, that sound again, non, and oui, yes. And then if you want to say, if someone gives you something and you say, oh, thank you so much, they would reply, you're welcome. So in French we'd say de rien, which literally translates to of nothing. So kind of like, oh, it's nothing, kind of. De rien. It's two words, de and rien, of nothing. Finally, we're gonna finish this greeting section with goodbyes. So to say goodbye in French, you say au revoir, again, two words, au et you, revoir, which means see you again, au revoir. And you have another one, which we like to say, which means see you soon or see you later. It's à bientôt, à bientôt. So next we're going to do a little dialogue with my friend Patricia, and it's just going to go over all the new words that we've learned today, and it will give you a way of putting those words into context. And this way, if you go to France and someone says those words to you, you'll be able to respond in an appropriate manner. Hey, so now we're going to get down to the dialogue to use the words that we learned earlier on, review them and see them in context. So this is my friend Pat, and she's going to perform the dialogue with me. Bonjour Pat.
Bonjour Chloé.
Comment allez-vous aujourd'hui?
Ça va bien et toi?
Je vais bien, merci. À bientôt Pat.
Au revoir.
So this was a really simple dialogue, and we're just going to break it down really quickly. We started by saying bonjour Patricia, because that's her name. Comment allez-vous aujourd'hui, which means how are you doing today? Comment allez-vous is one of the forms of greetings that we saw early on to ask how you're doing, because I don't know Patricia, she's just an acquaintance, so I'm going to use vous. And she replied with je vais bien, merci, and you, et vous, and you, et vous. So as I said, I am going well is a weird way of saying it, but that's just how we say it in French. And finally, she said, je vais bien, merci, à bientôt. And I would reply with au revoir or à bientôt, just to use the different forms of saying goodbye. So there you have the first half of the lesson. We went over some basic sounds, we explained the vowels and consonants that were different from English in French, and we practiced some new words and a little dialogue to see how these words work in actual real life context. And now we're just going to go over some more basics to be able to introduce yourself. So after you've done all of those greetings in the little dialogue that we've seen, before you say goodbye, you would maybe introduce yourself. And you would start with your name, and that is je m'appelle, which means I am called, je m'appelle. So je m'appelle Jean, je m'appelle Paul, je m'appelle Chloé, je m'appelle Pat. So it's je m'appelle followed by your name. That can be your first name or your last name or all of it at the same time, doesn't matter. Now, after you say your name, you would usually introduce your age, and that's where it gets complicated in French, because we do not say I am 22 years old, we say I have 20 years old. So to remember this, just think, in French we don't like things simple. We like to say that we have a certain amount of age under our belt. You know, like you'd have experience under your belt. Well, this is, I have experience living for the last 22 years. That's how you can remember it, if that helps. And so you would say, if you are 22, you would say j'ai 22 ans. 22 is the number here. I'll do a vocabulary sheet and put all the numbers so that you can learn and you can find your own age and learn it by heart. And finally, to introduce yourself, you might wish to say what you do for a living. Well, I'm a student, so in French I'm going to say je suis une étudiante. Je suis une étudiante. So I am a student. Une means a, but for the feminine, because in French we have both a feminine and a masculine for our words. And so, je suis une étudiante. From these expressions, there's a few notes that you need to highlight, and that's that we've just discovered pronouns and two main verbs, which are the most common verbs used in every language, which is to be and to have. So first, with the pronouns, it's important to know who is who. I think we've established now that je means I. Je. That's written J-E. Je. To say you, as in a singular person, you say tu. In French, we like to categorize things, and so we have singular and plural, just like in English. I, you, he, she, it are all singular in English. We, another you, and they are all plural. So in French, the singulars have je, tu, which is you, but for one person only, il or elle, which is he or she, and we have another one, we don't have it, we don't have a neutral, but we have un. Again, that sound, it's everywhere. So un means us. It's a bit of a weird one because it's just kind of more familiar way of saying we, but the conjugation and everything else that goes with it will be different. It's just forget about it for now. If you don't want to complicate things, if you do want to complicate things, just think of it, it's the same conjugation as il, elle, but the meaning means we. So for the plurals, now we have we, which means us, you, which can be twofold. It can be you as in this group of people in front of me, you guys, or it can also be you for one person if you want to show respect, and you do that with, as I said before, you do that with acquaintances, people you haven't met, people who are higher up than you in your job or just in life, yeah, and maybe your grandparents even, depends on what background you come from. So yeah, that's the one I would learn first, because unless you go to France with French friends, you probably won't have French friends, so you probably won't use tu for a while. So vous. And then finally we have the plural of he, she, which in English is they, while in French it's il and elle, which is the same as the singular, but we add an s at the end of each. So it will be written il, I-L-S, and elle will be E-double-L-E-S. So from those pronouns, and then from the verbs that you're going to learn afterwards, you're going to be able to conjugate any verb that you want. there's just some basic rules which we're not going to cover today because that's already too advanced for this lesson. But I'm just going to teach you two that are quite easy to remember and quite useful for everyday life, which is je suis and j'ai. We've already used them before in this lesson, and that's je suis une étudiante and j'ai 22 ans, which are I am a student and I am 22 years old. But those are the two verbs that we're going to learn today, which are to be and to have. So to be in French is être, and to have is avoir. When those are conjugated, so when they put with the pronoun, that's je suis and j'ai. So je suis can be followed by any object of your choice which describes something or is a noun in itself and stuff like that. So je suis riche, I am rich. Je suis grande, I'm tall. So those are adjectives, but you can also say je suis à Londres, which means I am in London, or je suis contente, which is I am happy. So je suis describes all of that. It's usually used in the same way as it's used in English, apart from a few exceptions. As I said in the beginning, each rule has its exceptions in French, and one of them is the age. So as we said, in French, we don't say I am 22, we say I have 22. So now let's just do I have, which is j'ai, and that's to say, just like in English, things that you possess. So I have a cat, j'ai un chat. I have a dog, j'ai un chien. I have a car, j'ai une voiture. All of that is just like in English. Again, the exception being, well, one of the exceptions being I am 22, we say I have 22. It's in the same way that in English you would say I am cold. In French, you would say I have cold. That's just how things are. Exceptions everywhere in French. So right, now we've just gone over two basic verbs, which are to have and to be. We went over the pronouns, and we went over how to say I am and I have. We're not going to go any further today because otherwise it's going to be overcomplicated, and I want you to just focus on the simple basics that we learned today to kind of get a foundation that you can then work on by yourselves. So let's go over some of the words that we saw today, which are bonjour, hello, bonsoir, good evening, comment allez-vous, how are you, comment vas-tu, how are you to your friend, and comment ça va, which is the easiest and simplest form to learn. Comment ça va, how are you. Je vais bien, I am good, ça va, all's good. Merci, thank you, merci beaucoup, thank you very much. De rien, you're welcome. Et vous, and you, et toi, and you, but for your friend. Au revoir, goodbye, à bientôt, see you soon. Je, tu, il, elle, on, nous, vous, il, elle. And finally, je m'appelle, j'ai, and je suis. So remember, that's je m'appelle plus your name, je m'appelle Chloé, or and j'ai plus your age, j'ai 30 ans, and je suis plus your occupation or your location or anything that you want to say in your introduction. So now that we've reviewed these words, try to review the dialogues that we've gone through today by yourselves, and this way you can master how to say hello, goodbye, thank you, and exchange a few sentences in French. I suggest now that if you want to continue to learn French, you should check out the websites that we've put up on Instagram, but we're also going to put them in the description of this video. There's also some great applications that you can learn that you can use to learn French. It depends, again, what you're looking for and what pace you want to go at. I was lucky enough to be born bilingual, speaking both French and English from a young age, but I have learned some languages over the years, including German and Chinese, and I can tell you that both times it was really challenging. We have a few tips for you that Linda is going to present, and you can also find them on our Instagram page or again in the description below. And with this, I bid you all farewell, or as we say in French, adieu, or au revoir, à bientôt, and see you soon.
Hi guys, today I'm here to talk to you about how to learn a language, or better, the struggles of learning a language, as well as some advice that have worked for me for the past couple of years. My first language is Italian, then I speak English and Spanish as well, and some French, but not that much. Yeah. So in terms of struggles, I definitely struggled with vocabulary at the beginning. Especially, in trying to figure out how to use words in certain contexts and how to use them in a sentence. So one of the things I did was basically learning the 100 most common words in a language, but then that didn't work out very well because I didn't know how to use them. And then basically I kept forgetting what I was learning, and that's insanely common. And I'm here to tell you that it's fine completely. You have to forget what you learn in order to learn more. But I was very demoralized because I thought I was never going to learn the language. But that's because I was studying primarily through books, and I was not listening, if that makes sense. And then basically I struggled in getting sort of used to a language and to recognize the actual sound of a language, and so I've always thought that, which makes sense that wasn't my language, and I was still struggling. But to be fair, that's the only way that you're gonna learn it, and that's the only way that you're gonna find out if you're actually learning it, when a foreign language stops being foreign and it becomes quite familiar to you. And then I struggled in being clumsy when speaking, and I used to be very, very sensitive to this. I didn't used to speak much because I thought I was going to make mistakes with the accent or with certain words, especially if I spoke to people that actually spoke that language. And then when I was in school as well, I never used to raise my hand and say, yes, I can tell you about my holiday. I was not going to do that. But to be fair, I've learned that the only way to actually learn a language is to keep speaking it. And it doesn't matter if you make mistakes, because then there could be people who are going to correct you, and that's good because you're going to learn. But that's the only way. That's genuinely the only way. And then, I was really struggling in trying to sort of translate what I was going to say from my original language. And I could actually feel the process of the very slow process of my brain trying to translate. And it was very, very painful. Now it doesn't happen as frequently, and I don't really know, I don't really know how I can just translate something. My brain can translate something so quickly, but it can. But at that moment, I was really afraid that I was gonna spend, hours trying to get a sentence out. And then also a couple of advice. I would say expose yourself to the language, and what I mean by that is, do not just study on books and stuff. Just try to listen to as much as you can of that language, whether it's films or podcasts or videos or people who actually speak that language. Try to get as much of the real stuff in, which is really good. I would also say link a language to a passion that you have, because that will make it easier and more enjoyable to learn. If you don't necessarily have a passion for the language. For example, I learned Spanish through telenovelas because I love them, and so it was really easy for me and really enjoyable. You know, when you actually get attached to the characters of a TV show or a film, it's so much easier to actually learn the language that they're speaking, if that makes sense. And then I would say keep talking, although you don't feel 100% confident, because no one's going to feel like that. So just keep talking and keep practicing in your head. And I mean it, because I used to practice in front of the mirror, because I didn't have, you know, at that time I didn't have anyone to practice English with. And so I used to create monologues, and I used to, you know, pretend to be an actress and stuff. But that genuinely helps, because that gets you to speak. And I didn't realise, but, you know, half an hour went by and I was just talking to myself, which is a bit weird. And then I would say understand that the process of learning a language is just, you know, making mistakes, sort of correcting yourself, forgetting things, and then relearning them again. And that's completely fine. It takes time, but it also takes a lot of confidence in learning and speaking a language. So if you've got that, you're good to go. Thank you guys for listening, and please let us know which language you're trying to learn at the moment, and maybe we can speak with you. Bye bye!